Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 4th edition of Trips and Traps. We're already into August. It is an absolutely glorious morning here in the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains, and it's great to be here. I'm Richard Migliore, joined by my partner in crime, Ernie Munick. Ernie, how you enjoying Saratoga?
Oh, I'm having so much fun. It's just too much. Just feel very blessed. And today we have sun, we have a breeze, we have races to talk about. This is just, it's too much.
Well, we got a lot of races to talk about, 5 in all, and we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to start out on the dirt, July 28th, race 5. We've got maidens going 5.5 furlongs, and we're going to keep an eye on the 3 and the 4. The 3 is Desert Trial, and the 4 is Mr. Messina. And a little bit of trouble for the 3 Desert Trial out of the gate. Mr. Messina does not break. He hesitates completely. So he gets bounced just a little bit. Not a big deal. He couldn't keep up. Mr. Messina broke slowly and looks like he didn't understand why he was there. And you see jockey Junior Alvarado getting after him left-handed. Sometimes you got to make a 2-year-old get in the game. You got to wake him up and say, hey, come on, we got work to do. And we're going to watch it here. You can see the 4 completely just bumbles out of the gate. And he's here. That's Mr. Messina. And the 3 Desert Trials here, who broke a little bit slow, got bumped. I'm not going to make too much of that. I wanted to show the head-on just to illustrate how Mr. Messina broke slowly. And I think both these horses ran subtly extremely well.
They did, Mick. And, this whole race was interesting to me. The winner of the race, Macho Maya, goes a 21 flat at the OBS sales, and yet only cost $50,000, goes at 7-1 and wins anyway. So that was the first thing. I'm like, what's going on here? Second of all, Mig, the race was kind of slow. But then you look at these trips. The one, Mr. Messina, who not unusual that you see a Bilmont horse not be maybe cranked up first time out, and then the Broman horse, who Desert Trial, who Mig was on the rail, kind of lacking some room in there. Was this a handsome horse or what? From my eye, he looked like a handsome horse.
He was a big, handsome horse. I like the fact that he was bold. He rallied in the traffic on the turn. Mr. Messina, also a big, handsome horse. He's last right now. Both horses had a body type, and I made note of it as I was watching the post parade, of horses that will improve with distance.
Yes.
The fact that they both made runs, and you could see Desert Trial coming out from behind horses here. Mr. Messina kind of went to angle out, but to no avail, wound up back inside. I thought they both overcame a lot of greenness to run as well as they did.
And Mr. Messina, even for a brief second, I thought was stuck behind her. Very brief, but enough to alter his course and maybe lose a little bit more momentum. You talk about them getting more ground. Desert Trial is bred to go the 2 turns.
Yes.
The mother was a stone 2-turn horse, and the second dam, someone you're familiar with, did both.
Yes, well, Desert Trial, you pointed it out to me by out of Seeking the Ante, and interestingly enough, I rode the great-grandmother as well, Ante-Spend in there. So
wow,
yeah, I go back a long way with the Bromans, but I thought Desert Trial, he was more obvious than Mr. Messina. But Mr. Messina basically they opened the starting gate, all the other horses broke, and he went, oh, me too?
Yeah.
I think he's going to improve a lot for the start, and I'd like to see him next time 7 furlongs, not even 6. I'd like to see Mr. Messina 7. Desert Trial and come back at 6, and I'll like him a lot.
It amazes me. You can go through history and you look at some of these great horses or excellent horses who ran very slow first time out. Horse like Giant Ryan earned like a 48 or 50 buy or like he was winning 107s a couple of years later. They're young, even though it's slow. You can still find good horses here, right?
Absolutely. I think sometimes you've got to overlook the time or the figure they run and look at what they overcame, what they got out of the race. They work in company,
right,
but they don't work with 9 other horses.
Yeah.
They don't break out of the gate, and when they work in company, they're not trying to beat each other. Now you got 9 horses trying to beat you. I like both Desert Trial and Mr. Messina next time. We'll see if I'm right. I think they were definitely trips. Let's move on. July 29th, race 7. And we are back on the dirt here, and we are looking at number 3, Nobody Move. Got off just a bit slow, and I think that kind of set up the rest of the trip he had. I don't think he wanted to be this far back, but sometimes you don't break great and you kind of get squeezed back a little bit. And he never was in a position to win the race.
Now, I've heard you talk before on many of these shows about horses being difficult to ride, or it's that not that they're like goofy or anything, but some of them are either are plotting early, they don't win that often, and things really have to work out right. Maybe Nobody Moves falls into this category, but we're going to see in just a little bit the type of trip he had, and maybe on this day he might have been best, or should have been a lot closer.
Well, I think Dylan Davis, after he got off poorly, had decisions to make, and I think he made one bad choice. He's here now. You're last. You've been dealt the bad hand already. How you play the bad hand is, how the trip you're going to work out. His horses got run at this point. He makes a decision to angle out before they get to the corner of the turn. Look where he winds up. Now, the chart said 6 wide.
No way.
This is more...
And it gets worse. It gets a little bit wider than this even.
Well, I mean, and this is as they come off the turn. This is more like 9 or 10 wide.
Yeah.
And besides being almost impossible to overcome that kind of ground loss, horses get lost out there a little bit. I think he even almost got out there. He's like by himself. They lose a little bit of that competitive edge. He's going to go back back to his right lead. And he kind of starts to level off and run again through the wire. If you think about breaking slow and the ground loss at the top of the stretch, this horse should have been right there for the win.
No, I agree, of course. Now, because that's what I do, supposed to do is play devil's advocate. He's 1 for 12.
Yeah.
He needs a good trip. He needs a strong pace. He needs the right competition. He needs a perfect ride. There are a lot of things that are going to need to happen for this horse, but you see on his best day what he can do. It's frustrating because it's not an easy horse to support at the mutuals because he's not the most reliable sort.
Well, from a rider's perspective, that's why if I ride this horse, I'm looking to cut every corner. I'm looking for every edge because he is 1 for 12. I don't want to give him an excuse to lose again. I want to find a way to make him win. And now talk about preparation. Saratoga Gyro, who is in front, if you go back and watch his last few replays at Finger Lakes, drifted out through the lane. So if you're looking at a group of horses, you want to get behind the guy that's going to drift.
That's great.
So if you're behind there and you got a decision to make, don't tip out so soon. It was a mistake. It happens. Dylan Davis is a young rider who's very talented.
Oh, he's enormously talented.
To me, he made a mistake.
Yeah. Happens
But,
to best.
it's our job to point out that Nobody Moved, to me, I think, may have been best.
Yeah, interesting horse to follow. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends how you look at it. These horses who don't win all the time and always have excuses are also very interesting because you want to think there's a way to get in there, a way to figure them out, a password, something to tell us this is the way into this horse.
If I was riding, I'd have been by the barn 5:30 the next morning. Please let me ride this horse.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
Let's move on. 10th race, same day, July 29th. And turf's all about trips. Well, the inner turf, we haven't seen a lot of it this year. We're looking at number 11, Strong. And while we're looking at number 11, Strong, we'll just make a note of the 12 out here, the eventual winner, Signature Look. And you want to talk about polar opposite trips. Strong was a little bit faster than Signature Look. He's going to get hung up 4 wide. I think Javier thought he might have an opportunity to clear. He can't clear. He's got 3 horses inside of him. And they're running into the turn. They're going 22 and change into a very tight bend with the rails out. Keep an eye on what happens here. This is where Strong winds up. Look at where Signature Look wound up.
Unbelievable. It's absolutely perfect. And that is Kavi on the outside. That's Johnny V inside of him. And with a half hour earlier, those two were going down the lane in the Easy Goer with Connect.
Yes.
And Gift Box.
Right.
So when I first saw this, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, was this had nothing to do with Payback because it was just a tough 2 races for Javi. First he's inside and gets beat with Connect, and then he gets shoved out to the grandstand. Even great jockeys can suffer frustration at Saratoga.
No doubt. And really the horse that caused it was the horse on the inside. You cannot run. Now, again, let's look at the trips. Now this horse, who was behind him into the first turn, Signature Look, is in front of Strong, who's here now, and basically spent. He had to use too much energy on the first turn, but look at the difference in trips.
Amazing.
And the horse that was on the lead, the one horse, if I can find it here, American Road. He basically caused it because he was close to the rail, and you have to be able to fall into the turn here. You can't be dead on the rail and think you're going to make that corner. And when he came out, he started their momentum to the outside, and basically they lost all chance.
So, Mig, in a situation like this, though, now you have 4 going into the first turn. You can't, once you commit, I've heard you talk about this, you can't really pull out of there, right?
No, and it's not driving a car. You ask them to run just because you let up on the gas or you let off or step on the brake. It doesn't mean they're going to listen to you. They're 1,000 pounds and you've already ignited them.
But see the 11 there, it's strong. He's not completely done. Whereas the other one, where is the one who took him to the first turn? Many lengths behind.
Yeah, he's just finishing there.
Yeah.
So, if you think about that, Strong actually, he never collapsed. I mean, he was beaten about 7 lengths for everything. But he had an impossible trip. Yeah. Now you want him back with a different post position, and maybe he works out a different kind of trip. But I kind of knew, handicapping the race, it projected for him to get a wide trip into the turn.
It's very interesting. That's the type of stuff that should be thought beforehand. Even Mig, I go as far as this. Sometimes we joke about this, blame the jockey, that horse from Parks. That's what people love to do. But I'm in the position now, Mig, where people should be handicapping jockeys beforehand so they know what they're getting. So there's no complaining afterward.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Now, listen, Javier Castellanos is a terrific rider. He had a bad post on a horse that didn't have enough speed to clear and wasn't slow enough to drop back. Junior Alvarado rode an absolutely flawless, picture-perfect race on Signature Look to find that break, and he did it while getting his position going forward.
Oh, boy, must be the best feeling, boy, when you drop in like that. And go ahead, boys. Have your fun.
You find that break. That's a good feeling. Let's turn the page. July 30th, race number 8, and we are looking at number 6, Circus Performer, who does have trouble out of the gate, and he does get squeezed. And to me, that cost him position. I thought decisions made later by Joel Rosario cost him any chance. So now he was never in a position to win the race, and we'll go back and watch the pan shot now, and you'll see. He didn't break great, and then he gets squeezed a little. I do not blame Joel Rosario for that, and we're going to see here. And he actually does try to, get him into the game a little bit, and I thought he was a little lethargic. But we're going to watch him later on. He winds up last, really far back, much further back than I anticipated him being. Now, not that he's a speed horse, but basically you're this far back, and it's a tepid pace at best. And look where the leader is. And here's Circus Performer now. I mean, basically, he's going to have to be much the best to win from this position.
And you'll see where the winner is. The winner is fairly close to that place. Raise the bar, is what, about 4.5, 5 lengths off the lead, and the other and Circus Performer is what, about 12 lengths off the lead?
Maybe more at this point. I'm maybe closer to 14 or 15
so
lengths.
There you go.
Yeah.
And also, Mig, this is a horse who broke his only win came going a flat mile. This is a very interesting horse. He's bred to state of 2019. So you think maybe he wants to go 1 3/4 miles, but he won going a mile. Another interesting horse with tons of pedigree, excellent connections. But what is best for him? That's a hard question.
Well, he's inside now. I mean, he's caught up to the field. He's inside. And he basically says, well, I can't quite make it there. So he lets him drop out of that spot. And I thought the decision here, you've been dealt a bad hand. I don't blame Joel Rosario for the start. But now he's going to get him running, wind him up, leaving the 3/8 pole. And again, now you're going to compound braking slowly with trying to circle the field. How much the best would you have to be?
Yeah.
I think you're better off sitting in there and hoping for the best. And if you don't get through, at least it's not a hard race on your horse. Look at where he is now. I mean, he's a good 7, 8 wide into the stretch, and he's trying to run. The horse is definitely trying to run on. Now, I understand what
you're saying. And raised the bar inside out. And raised the bar, came right out of the pocket.
Saved every inch, came out of the pocket. Got the perfect pocket trip. That's the turf trip you want. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think, and you may think this horse is a potential trap. I would love to see blinkers on this horse.
Never crossed my mind. I thought you might want a little less distance. Distance has nothing to do with it.
I would like to see blinkers on this horse because I'm thinking that maybe he'll be a little sharper out of the gate. He'll get a little position, and he won't have that stop and start. It looked like Joel wanted to go up the inside, and the horse looked maybe a little tentative, so he let him drop back, and now he's got to put him in the clear. Maybe with blinkers, he's a little bolder, and there's a little more continuity to the run.
Now, we've seen him on the lead, so he's not a Vulcan's Forge type horse, who, by the way, ran second at Monmouth. I meant to tell you that.
Did you really?
I
missed that one.
I'm rooting for him. You called him a trap, and you were right, but I'm still rooting for him. But he's not a Vulcan Forge, because this horse can actually be on the lead if they're going slow enough in a long race.
And he certainly could have position.
Sure.
This race, no position, wide, recipe for failure.
Yes, no doubt.
All right, same day, July 30th, race 11. We are looking at number 2, Antebellum. And you know I am a big Jose Ortiz fan. I think he was a little too heavy-handed with Antebellum and wound up giving her too much to do and lending itself to a bad trip. If he could have held his position here, but watch, he's got a pretty strong hold of her. Now, I understand you don't want her running off into that turn because it is a tight turn, but he winds up second to last into the first turn when it looked like she could have been the one laying third or fourth in the pocket in a race dominated by horses that were on the front end.
She had never, ever been this far back. There's no doubt about that. She's never been this far back, so it almost felt, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was instructions from the trainer, almost felt like an experiment. Let's see what happens if we really take her back. She's never been that far back, and, you know, you live by the rail, you know, you'll die by the rail. It was just interesting. The approach, you know, wasn't the smoothest trip, even given the strategy of falling all the way back.
I just think she should have been within 3 or 4 lengths of the lead. Kieran McLaughlin's not a trainer that tends to give a lot of instructions, and when he does, it's never to take one that far back. And she's got run. I mean, you could see, like, she's here now. If he had let her run a little bit more in a turn, she's probably either here or here at this point. And now she's going to have to negotiate through traffic and make up ground when horses aren't coming back. The winner went wire to wire.
Yeah, no, Mick, you know, sometimes in these races, and I used to watch you do this stuff all the time, jockeys trying to get familiar with them. Jose had ridden Antebellum before, so maybe is it possible he thought, you know, she might benefit from really just getting back early and making that one run.
He may have thought that. I can't get into his mind.
Right.
I am a fan. He's super talented. He's going to try to cut the corner here, and he's looking for space. And I just think it was a mistake. I would have never left her this much to do. They went a half in 48 and 4, almost 49 seconds. Now he dives back to the rail. He was looking for an escape hatch.
Gets tight. It gets tight in there now.
It's very tight. You know, maybe she's not comfortable. Certainly he's like, I'm not. And he didn't have to snatch her out of there, but he certainly put the bit in her mouth. And when horses have run hard to get to that position and they're tiring a little, you put the bit in their mouth, like, just to slow them down. They want an excuse to slow down. They're tired. Right. It's like you're working really hard, and your boss says, take a day off.
You know, it's a privilege to sit here with you because I can sit here and say, well, yeah, I could have done this and could have done that. And, you know, this horse really... You know that these decisions have to be made in the millisecond.
Absolutely.
So you understand that.
Yeah.
I feel, you know, I'm a handicapper. You know that when you talk about these jockeys, a part of you is saying, you know, but there are decisions that have to be made.
Listen, we all understand it's a tough job. You got to make snap decisions. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're the GOAT, sometimes you're the hero. Right. But it's our job now to point out horses that could run back.
That's it.
And perform better with different trips.
Definitely.
And don't forget, it is Trips and Traps at NYRA.com, NYRAInc.com, and we can always use your help.